A steady market in the week and the outcomes of the weather in South America. Jerry Gidel is ready to analyze all of that impacting corn and soybeans right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So Jerry, there hasn't been a lot of change in the corn and soybean markets during this week after we had some interesting news last week involving China, but there isn't much going on in the week that just passed.
You're true about that. The only one maybe slipped a little bit was, of course, the soybeans because the Chinese last week decided that they're opening the salvo here on the trade potential war between the U.S. and China with the idea that they were going to hurt us by shipping away some of their used cooking oil that they've been supporting with export uh, dollars to ship to the U.S. and that started things a little shaky. Actually, it became a kind of an interesting factor mid to late week here in the soy complex with the U.S. soybean oil took about actually it wasn't this all this week. It was over the last 2 weeks. Had a 15% correction in its prices, and we fell through some support levels on the technicals, and we had 2 days of pretty good cracks and things here that took us down, geez, from 48 down to 42 cents per bush or per 100 pounds on uh, uh, from there, excuse me, on a percent basis, it was around 15%. But in general here, the beans are still hanging on against some long-term support at this point. From there, the corn market, yeah, kind of went sideways, as you talked about. Same kind of thing in the wheat. They kind of went moseyed across on against the support levels as we did things here. Worldwide commentary here on the corn market. We've had some good sales this week. We even had some actually pretty good sales in beans, unknown, and some sales to China on beans. But the one kind of twist was that we had a pretty good sale of meal to the Philippines, and that kind of provided stability yesterday. And the bean oil slipped below its uptrend line, and it had a hard day down. It followed the day on Wednesday. So we've had some technical features jump into these markets that's put things on the defensive, particularly in the soybean complex.
Yes, and in South America, Brazil has reached 82% of the planting surface. And Mato Grosso is roughly completed in the planting process.
You're exactly right. We just got an update on that this afternoon, as you pointed out. We're really looking at that really parent on and to some extent Rio Grande do Sul. Rio Grande is always they're only putting in one crop a year. There's not double cropping and things like that, or you put the beans in, then you put corn in after that up in Mato Grosso and other parts of Paraná and North and stuff. But that isn't the case in Rio Grande, and that they've got pretty solid stuff done, but they still have things to go here on their plannings. Actually, one of the bigger factors in South America that really hasn't gotten a lot of play is the fact that it's been pretty dry in Paraguay, the country that kind of sit between Brazil and Argentina. They are kind of landlocked. They basically move a lot of their crops down the Paraná River into Argentina and we'll see. They've been producing around 10 million metric tons of beans for many years, and we'll see what that turns out. But it's not getting much play right today. But in general, South America's crops are moving along here. Argentina is definitely one that I think is going to be quite important. They look like they didn't plant as much corn because of this last year's leaf hopper issue there, and that they did jump up on a report here yesterday, I think it was from nationally, they went up about 15% from 20% up to 35 on beans, and that. But they still had 30 to 40% of their wheat yet, or excuse me, 30 to 40% is all they got of their wheat harvest. And so I think to some extent, the faster the wheat gets harvested, the better and better the Argentine soybeans will be. I don't see a lot of corn being used as a behind their wheat crop this year. If it comes on with some additional corn acres, it'll be after the first of the year and after what it looks like then their weather's going to be. There's still a few dry spots in Pampas and parts of Cordoba, but overall, South America is not getting anybody nervous here in a big way, and that's maybe part of the reason why we had some defensive tones along with the technical liquidation that hit in the soybean oil.
Now, considering that the soybean harvest in Brazil will start pretty early next year, uh, today the President-elect of the United States, Trump, has just announced that the new Treasury Secretary will be a very pro-tariff person, which was very expected, Scott Benson. But
Right, yeah.
and in the meantime, China has just allowed imports of sorghum from Brazil. So, where do you think the world is headed in terms of grain trade?
Well, yes, definitely. There's lots of people lining up on different spots here. The Trump administration is definitely was indicating their strength or their approach is going to be utilizing tariffs and things of that nature to. I'm not sure that they want to listen to too many people on the other side before they throw around their tariffs, but I guess we'll find that out from there. This particular fellow is. In the Wall Street world, so he does have a little bit of credibility from the standpoint of involving being the Secretary of Treasury. At this point, we'll just have to see. It's also going to be a part of the State Department, also that had a shift in that particular approach this week with the Florida congressman dropping out from there. But overall, the bully pulpit that Trump loves to use is probably still going to be a approach here on it from the Chinese side of things. I don't know that at this point until we get further into February and March after the administration gets going and that type of thing, are we going to totally get a sense of what how dynamic it's going to be? At this point, last time around, the administration had access to utilizing monies being sent to producers while the U.S. and China were in War of the Words. We'll see if that is the case. It hasn't been announced, hasn't been indicated that that's going to happen, but that's highly important, I think, I suppose, if that's the case. From there, the the interesting twist is that China did also open up the idea that they would be taking, would be interested if Brazil would like to send them sorghum. They were dropping in the tariffs for the Brazilians on that. They really have not been a big supplier of sorghum. Interestingly enough, it has been a billion-dollar imports for China over the last few years, and it's been primarily from the U.S. So they're looking for other sources. I don't know that I'd have to say that Brazil and Argentina are real sorghum producers, but at this point, but at this juncture, they're encouraging South America to be growing some of that particular crop that the Chinese could
Yeah,
utilize
there was
going
a
forward.
larger sorghum production in Brazil in the past, but seems that now it wants to catch up with the United States and Argentina that already have been supplying China.
Right. Well, Brazil uh, might have had some of that going on, but they've got so infatuated with the soybeans and then put corn behind it. That's really been their forte over the last 4 or 5 years. So that's really something we have. The weather down there is going to continue to be highly, highly important on all that.
Yeah, so
For them.
heading into next week will be a 4-day week in the US markets. What do you anticipate?
Well, I kind of feel like we could be kind of uh, limping along just the way we have been here. To some extent, the corn market probably is the one that maybe have the biggest vulnerability if we somehow or other take that close down on December here down below the 418, 419 zone on that one. Otherwise, right now we still have some exports we've actually physically got to get out the door. So I think we've had some really good, strong uh, exports and shipments over the last few weeks. We even had some this week in the bean market. So to some extent, the interesting thing about it is though. Is that weather of it is continues to be kind of benign and not any particular excitement going on there with either heat or lack of moisture. We'll probably just continue to kind of move sideways. Right now, though, the wheat and markets down there against some support. Same thing with the soybeans in the 970, 975 zone on the January prices here. So we're just kind of creeping along here. Hopefully, we don't get there's been a lot of talk that's floating around here the last few days about the corn because of the long open interest that's in that market. To some extent, it has to do with the fact that the exporters have this huge sales on the books and they'd like to get it moved through the system. So they really need to kind of keep the corn prices up there. Now, how far that can go, and that is always a big factor to look at and how that happens. But from there, so it could be a quiet one, or we could run into some technical liquidation based upon the corn market slipping below that 418 area. From there, last week's low was 417, so that would really be the magic number, I suppose, that would impact the overall prices by the time we get to Friday. Right now, we're not going to have any Wednesday night markets or a Thursday day or night market. We're going to have a somewhat abbreviated Friday market there, starting at 8:30 in the morning and then turning around and both the corn and soybeans and wheat will all be closing out in the 12 to 12:10 zone in there. So that's going to be quite important from there. Eh, one last thing in this whole thing about market activities, we did get an update of the U.S. cattle market, and it pretty came in pretty benign. It came in as expected, right around 100 million, or excuse me, 100% of last year's numbers on cattle inventory. The month sales in October were about 5% up, and the placements were about the same. So we ended up having kind of a quiet overall number that I don't sense that in general that suggests that we still got some livestock demand in the U.S. on corn and corn, and to some extent in protein in general. It's not really cattle do not end up eating soybean meal. They have other things they utilize, but overall it could be a quiet market as we stumble through the holiday. We'll just have to see.
All right, thank you very much.
You bet. Take care.